All right, get those taste buds ready because today we are diving deep into Rajasthani cuisine.
Ooh, my favorite. I'm excited to dig in.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we didn't hold back on the sources. We've got travel blogs, cultural articles, we even sprinkled in some Wikipedia for good measure.
Nice. Always good to get that well-rounded perspective.
Absolutely. So, when you think Land of Kings, you might picture these elaborate feasts, right?
Like fit for a Maharaja.
Exactly. But Rajasthan, well, it's mostly desert, so how did that shape what people eat?
Yeah, that's such a good point. Imagine this. You're in this region, scorching sun, limited water, and you have this warrior culture always on the move.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
So ingredients like dried lentils and beans, things that could last for ages, suddenly those become super valuable.
Makes sense. You got to adapt to what you've got.
Exactly. And, our Wikipedia deep dive revealed a pretty surprising fact.
Oh, what's that?
Rajasthan is actually the most vegetarian state in India.
Wow, I did not know that. Honestly, when I think Indian food, I usually picture a lot of meat dishes.
There's definitely a strong meat-eating tradition, especially with the Rajputs. But there's also the influence of Jainism, which really emphasizes nonviolence. And then you have the Bishnoi community, known for their reverence for nature and wildlife.
So vegetarianism is kind of woven into the culture really deeply,
Absolutely.
which leads us perfectly to, I think, the star of the vegetarian lineup, Dal Baati Churma.
Ooh, yes.
The travel blogs we read could not stop raving about it.
It's a classic for a reason. It's so unique. So you have these hard, unleavened bread balls
Oh,
called bati, and they're baked in this clay oven until they're nice and smoky.
I love that smoky
Yeah,
flame.
it adds so much. And that oven, by the way, is called a tandoor. It's this big earthenware pot heated with charcoal, which gives the food that incredible earthy flavor. And then alongside the bati, you've got dal, a lentil stew,
Okay.
and then churma, which is this sweet, crumbly mixture. It's like a whole meal in one dish.
Yeah, the blog even recommended a spot in Jaipur to try it. Lakshmi Mishtan Bandar.
Ooh, good to know. Now, another dish that really intrigued me was gatte ki sabzi.
Ooh, yeah. The graham flour dumplings and the yogurt spice gravy.
Right. How could you not be intrigued? And it's so smart. Think about it. Fresh vegetables wouldn't always be easy to come by in the desert.
Right.
So they took graham flour, a total staple, and they transform it into these savory dumplings simmered in a tangy, spiced yogurt gravy. Resourceful, delicious. Distinctly Rajasthani.
Love it. Okay, this one really got me curious. Ker Sangri. Dried berries and beans.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds more like, survival rations than gourmet food.
It kind of is. It's a dish born out of necessity, something that could last for days in that harsh climate.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Today it's considered a delicacy, often served at Marwari weddings.
No way.
Yeah, it's like a culinary bridge between survival and celebration.
That is so cool. And the blog suggested traditional Kana restaurant in Udaipur for authentic Ker Sangri.
Adding that to my list.
Same. Okay, on to another hearty one, Panchkuta. I mean, the name itself, it literally means 5 grains.
5 grains.
So nutritious. So nutritious. And, it emphasizes that idea of sustenance, making the most of what you have. The blog mentioned you often find it in local households or at fairs and festivals, so I think it gives you a real taste of everyday life in Rajasthan.
I love that. Now, I got to admit, the Wikipedia entry threw me a little with some of the names. Pitod Rosag, Mangodi Rosag, Papad Rosag. Like,
It
what?
can seem like a whole new language.
Right.
But don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Sag simply means greens, and these dishes are all variations using different ingredients to create these flavorful meals. Pitod, those are steamed graham flour slices.
Okay.
Mangodi, those are fritters made from moong dal, a type of lentil. And get this, papad rosag actually incorporates lentil crisps.
So they took everyday ingredients and made them magical.
Exactly. It's all about ingenuity and resourcefulness.
I love that. Okay, so we've explored the amazing vegetarian side of Rajasthani food.
Which is a huge part of the cuisine.
But like you mentioned earlier, there's that Rajput warrior heritage. Right?
Absolutely. So let's talk meat. Bring on the spice. I'm ready.
Okay then. I think you'll especially appreciate this next dish. It's called Laal Maas.
Laal Maas.
It's as bold and fiery as its name suggests.
Ooh, tell me more.
Well, Laal means red, and this dish gets its vibrant color from the generous amount of red chilies in it. Imagine tender pieces of mutton simmered in this rich, intensely flavorful gravy.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's definitely not for the faint of heart.
I feel like that ties back to the Rajput warriors, right?
Right. Like a hearty, fortifying meal after a day on the battlefield.
Now, if Laal Maas is the fiery warrior, then what's Mohan Maas?
Ooh, Mohan Mas is like the elegant prince. It's considered a royal delicacy, prepared with such richness and finesse. We're talking mutton cooked with milk, cream, a blend of spices, and get this, dry fruits.
Wait, dry fruits. In a meat dish?
It's unique, right? It adds this touch of sweetness and complexity. It's the kind of dish you'd find in a palace setting, meant to be savored.
I can just imagine it. And a deep dive unearths some other intriguing options, too. Jungli mains, which is game meat, and makli jaisamandi, a fish dish. So even in the non-vegetarian realm, lots of variety.
Tons of variety. And it just shows how the cuisine has evolved in incorporating different influences and ingredients over time. But one thing that's consistent, the spice. Remember that anecdote we read about the spiciest thing you've ever eaten?
Oh, yeah. I once had a vindaloo that had me sweating and reaching for water with every bite.
I feel you. I'm pretty sure I saw smoke coming out of my ears after a particularly potent Thai curry. But WHY, is Rajasthani food so spicy? Is it just a preference, or is there something more to it?
That's a good question.
Well, there are a few theories out there. One is the cooling effect of capsaicin, the compound that makes chilies hot.
Wait, hold on. Eating spicy food actually cools you down.
I know, right? But it's true. When you eat something spicy, the capsaicin triggers a warming sensation, but that makes you sweat. And as we know, sweating is the body's way of cooling down. Built-in AC.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Now, what about the idea of spices being used to preserve food in the heat?
Right, I was curious about that one.
It's called the antimicrobial hypothesis, and it makes sense, especially in a place like Rajasthan. We read about that Cornell study. They found a strong correlation between spice use and warmer climates. It seems spices like onion, garlic, chili peppers helped prevent food spoilage before we had fridges.
So spices were about flavor, but also a necessity.
Exactly, keeping people safe. And then there's this intriguing theory from the BBC article we read.
Oh, yeah.
It suggests that spice tolerance might actually be linked to a love of thrill-seeking.
Okay, now that I have to hear more about.
So the idea is that when capsaicin hits your taste buds, it mimics a burning sensation. This triggers a release of endorphins and adrenaline, similar to what you get on a roller coaster or watching a scary movie. So people who like that adrenaline rush might also be drawn to that fiery kick.
So my love of spicy food is a sign of my inner daredevil. Who knew?
It's possible. But it's clear that the love of spice is this complex mix of, well, physiology, culture, even personality. It's another layer to the fascinating story of Rajasthani cuisine.
It really is. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Survival food turned gourmet, the cooling effect of chilies. But before we get to the sweeter side of Rajasthani cuisine,
Oh yes, the sweets.
what stands out to you as the most surprising thing we've learned so far?
That's a tough one. I think it's that ingenuity. Taking limitations and turning them into strengths, that's impressive.
I agree. It really makes you appreciate the resourcefulness and creativity. All right, are you ready for dessert?
Bring it on! Rajasthani sweets are in a league of their own.
I have a feeling they are. Oh, one thing that I found really interesting in our research was that Naivedya tradition.
Offering food to the deities.
Right, exactly.
It's such a beautiful tradition, so ingrained in Indian culture. And it's definitely shaped Rajasthani sweets.
It's not just about satisfying your sweet tooth. It's almost spiritual.
Right, like expressing devotion, gratitude. And you see that in the care and attention that goes into these sweets. They're often so rich. Milk, ghee, nuts, dried fruits.
Oh, yeah, speaking of rich, Givar.
Oh, Givar.
I've seen pictures. It's visually stunning. That honeycomb shape?
Eye-stunning. And that intricate pattern, it's not just for looks. It actually helps the Givar absorb the sugar syrup.
Oh, wow.
So it makes it super moist and flavorful.
Interesting.
And here's another fun fact. Givar is traditionally enjoyed during the Tej festival, which celebrates women and marriage. So it's a sweet treat with cultural significance, too.
I love that, how food can tell a story.
It really can.
Now, one of the blogs we read mentioned mawa kachori being super popular in Jaipur.
Oh, ma kachori.
Sweet kachori. I've never even heard of that.
Imagine a crispy, flaky pastry, and it's filled with this sweet mixture of mawa, which is like a reduced milk solid, and then nuts.
Oh, my gosh.
Decadent, rich. Definitely got to try it if you have a sweet tooth.
Adding it to the list. Now, there's also laapsi, which I gather is kind of like a pudding.
Yeah, it's a pudding. The base is usually a cooked grain, like cracked wheat or rice,
Yeah.
sweetened with sugar or jaggery.
Okay.
But the cool thing about lapsi is there are so many variations. You can add different nuts, spices, even rose petals.
Rose petals.
Rose petals. It adds this delicate floral aroma, really elegant.
That's a combination I never would have thought of.
It's surprisingly delicious. And of course, we can't forget churma. We talked about it as part of Dal Baati Churma, but can also be its own dessert.
Right.
So they take those baked body, crush them up, mix them with ghee and sugar, sweet, crumbly, heavenly.
It's amazing how they take such basic ingredients and create so many different things.
Yeah.
Sweet, savory, it's incredible.
I know, and I think it speaks to their ingenuity, right? Making the most of what you have.
Definitely. Okay, so we've covered the spice-infused curries, the vegetarian dishes, and now these amazing desserts. I am getting a real sense of how adaptable and resourceful this cuisine is.
Me too. And it's all rooted in their environment, their culture. It's a really special culinary tapestry.
It is, and we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
Oh, absolutely. Each region of Rajasthan has its own unique traditions, specialties. The culinary adventure never ends.
I'm already planning my Rajasthani food tour.
Good idea.
But before we wrap up, I have to ask, what's your biggest takeaway from all this? What will you remember most?
That's a great question. For me, it's that deep connection between the food and the land, the people, their history. Every ingredient, every dish, it tells a story.
Food with soul.
Exactly. And I think that's something we can all appreciate no matter where we're from or what kind of food we grew up with. It reminds us that food is more than just fuel. It's a way to connect with different cultures, to understand their stories.
Beautifully said. There's so much more to discover out there. So go out and explore. Try these dishes for yourself and let us know what becomes your must-have.
Yeah, tell us all about it.
Until next time, happy feasting, everyone.
Happy feasting.